Everyone, 1 minute late due to some technical issues here, but we are working through it. It is Monday, August 15th, halfway through the month of August. Hard to believe here. I'm Mayor Chris Jensen coming to you live from the city of Noblesville, and we are here with another edition of Mental Health Monday. We're so excited to have you here on a beautiful, actually it's pretty gray, but anyways, it could be beautiful wherever you're at, Monday morning, because we have listeners and viewers from all over the world, which is awesome. So I am joined once again by a great friend of mine, somebody who offers so much time, talent, treasure to the city of Noblesville, Kristen Boyce, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jensen, and our special guest.
Our special guest. You teed it off there. Yeah, I guess it's not a surprise since she's right here on the screen with us. Another good friend of mine, a fellow Noblesville High School graduate, an amazing singer and vocalist, and all-around good person, Maggie Owens. Maggie, good morning. Maggie is with the Indiana Center for Prevention of Youth Abuse and Suicide. I had to look at my notes on that one because I just knew I would probably give you a new title and a whole new company if I didn't. So good morning, Maggie.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We are so glad to have you. We all sound so positive right now, but we're probably going to dive into somewhat of a heavier topic today. But we're positive because we're having these conversations. So I'm not going to prevent anyone from smiling while we're even talking about this, because the fact that we're talking about it, the fact that we're leaning into it has been a goal from day one of Kristen and myself when we launched this program 2.5 years ago, that we're going to tackle some meaty topics today and really all the time. So we are going to lean in and talk a little bit about youth abuse and suicide prevention. A warning, if that's something that might trigger you, please, be aware of that we are going to kind of dive into the heavy conversation. Know that we would totally respect if you need to tune out or look away for a little bit or go do something else and rejoin us. Absolutely respect that, as with any conversation that we have here. But we know that today's conversation will be a little bit heavy. So in order to get us ready for that heavy conversation, we always start with a wonderful exercise, which is square breathing. And I'll turn that over to Kristen Boyce to lead us through that.
Good morning, everyone. We are so glad you're here with us today. You matter, you're important, and you're loved. And I just want to reiterate that as we're talking through a hard topic today. So in order to tolerate what we might be talking about today, we're going to really work on our breathing so we can breathe through that discomfort, regulate our nervous system, and come back to calm and centered. So first thing we're going to do is put our feet on the floor, and you're going to press into your feet. This helps kind of center you and keep you in your body. And the reason why that's important is when we leave our body, we really aren't connected to what's happening in the present moment. And this will help you come back to the present moment, be able to take in, metabolize, and process what comes up. So feet on the floor. We're going to take a big, deep inhale through your nose. We're going to hold for 4, kind of belly to the spine if you can, and then exhale through your mouth for 8. So let's do 2 breaths together, pressing feet into the floor. Big, deep inhale. Hold and release. Just reconnect to your body, your nervous system. Take another deep inhale through your nose and release. I recommend you really practice this every hour on a regular basis. So when you feel activated in your nervous system, you feel stuck, you feel like it's too much, you come back to the breath to help you come back to calm.
Love it. Funny story on this breath thing. I was talking this weekend to my third oldest child, Hank, whatever it is. And he was actually talking about breathing this weekend. And he was talking about, he's very inquisitive, and he brought up, he's like, so when you stop breathing, you die. Very literal too. And I was like, well, there's a lot more to that, but it was very just through the mind of a 5.5-year-old. Yes. When you stop breathing, you die. And so when you stop breathing on a daily basis, you get yourself into a bad situation. So I just thought that was a cute moment this weekend from him, who saw it from a very literal standpoint as well, but very important and really the baseline of what we're working from here. So as we dive into this conversation, which I'm going to turn it over to Kristen here in a minute to kind of tee it up, and then she can probably pass to Maggie to maybe introduce a little bit about the organization that Maggie works for. And then we'll kind of go into some question answer. And obviously this is kind of this topic can be applied not just on youth, There's going to be trigger warnings for anyone who might be dealing with folks that are really have suicidal ideations or any concerning thoughts too. So there's a lot that you can take from this, even if you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't know anybody who is contemplating this, or I may not deal with it myself. Just take a listen. You're going to learn something today, a little bit, something to pick up from. And I know, Kristen, you and I have tackled this topic before on a broader scale. So I'm interested to kind of narrow in a little bit and talk more on maybe a youth perspective as well. If you have any questions today and want to chime in and ask a question, feel free. If you want to just say hi, you can feel free to do that. If you want to private message one of us to kind of ask some more personal questions, fully respect that as well, knowing that it is a meaty topic. So there's all my disclaimers there that I've laid out for this, and then I'll pass it over to the real experts, Kristen Boyce, if you want to kind of take it from there to kind of intro the topic, and we'll work on from there.
Yes, the first thing I want to say is at any point during this time, if you're having suicidal thoughts, you can text 988 or call 988 at any point. So I want to make sure we put that out there in case someone needs that more immediately, that it's available right now, 24/7, anytime you need it. It's the suicide prevention hotline, crisis hotline. 988 is the number. And so without further ado, Maggie, welcome. We're excited you're here. Tell us a little bit about what you do, the organization, what you do. And then our goal for the conversation is to decrease the stigma and equip people on how to approach this conversation about suicide, because people are scared. They're going to say the wrong thing. They're going to plant a seed. They're going to trip something in or trigger something in someone. So, and the other thing is prevention. So tell us a little bit about the organization and your role.
Absolutely. So like Mayor Jensen said at the start, I am with the Indiana Center for Prevention of Youth Abuse and Suicide. If you are been around Hamilton County for a long time, we were previously known as Chassie's Place. So we are a prevention education organization that work directly with students and families on child abuse prevention, child sexual abuse prevention, and suicide prevention. So in the state of Indiana, it is mandated in kindergarten through 12th grade that every student receive body safety education every year. So we provide that to, we were in 103 different school buildings last year providing that education. In addition to that, we also offer some suicide prevention programs and an adult-focused child sexual abuse prevention program. My role in the organization is I am the Director of Education and Community Relations, so I get to be out and about sharing these topics, talking about it in a way that makes people comfortable, as well as just helping to educate our communities and our families.
And Maggie, you have a background in education, correct?
I do. I was a Noblesville school teacher for 10 years. I have a master's in curriculum. And so I help write our curriculum. And I'm actually getting a postmaster's certification right now in social emotional learning.
Fantastic. So let's jump into let's start with warning signs. Mm-hmm. If someone is showing signs that they say, I don't want to be here, I want to die, or they might not say anything. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the warning signs so people can know what to look for?
So this is the tricky thing, is that not every person is the same. So they're not going to demonstrate the same warning signs as somebody else. And it may not be as clear as saying, I want to die or I don't want to be here. But there are some of those direct verbal cues, like I don't want to be here, I want to go to sleep and never wake up. And there are some behavioral indicators as well. Obviously, we know that mental health and substance abuse go hand in hand. So somebody who has increased the amount of substance that they might have, whether that's drinking or other drugs, that is an indicator that might be a concern for somebody. There are, giving away possessions is something that we see a lot of times. That is an indication that they're giving away the things that are important to them because they aren't going to need those things anymore. So there's a variety of different signs and warning signs that we see and experience, both from the youth as well as our adults. I mean, for example, if somebody is making their end of life plans in place, I mean, that is something that obviously as an adult, you want to have those things put in place for when your time here on earth is done. But when we see those fixations on planning the ends of what's going to be the end, obviously stockpiling any kind of pills or stockpiling any kind of means in order to take their life, that is going to be an indication of something going on as well.
And so how do we have conversations if we suspect we notice their mood shifting, their behaviors of shifting, they're isolating more, something is in our soul, we're like, there's something going on. How do we approach the conversation?
That is a really important thing to have. I mean, I know that Kristen, you and I were saying before we even got started that, when I was growing up, suicide and suicide thoughts were not a dinner table conversation. That wasn't something that was openly talked about. But I think that we are changing that stigma. We are changing that trajectory where we are having these conversations because it's important to have these conversations, right? And so talking about feelings, emotions, what we're going through on a regular basis is just going to open up that door of communication. And so when we're thinking about how to approach this, I think it's really just sometimes you just have to jump in with 2 feet and say, hey, I've noticed that you're not acting yourself. What's going on? Are you having thoughts of harming yourself? Are you having thoughts of suicide? Like, let's have a conversation, because even though so many times people think that having that conversation is putting the idea in the mind of someone, what you're doing is opening that door to be able to have an ongoing conversation. So if I'm worried about a friend of mine, I've noticed that their behavior has changed, I've noticed that they are withdrawing and isolating, the best thing that I can do is reach out and say, I've noticed these things. Tell them the things that you've noticed, how their behavior has changed. Because if they're not having thoughts of harming themselves, they maybe didn't even realize that they were withdrawing. Maybe they didn't even realize that they were acting this way. But by being a good friend and having that conversation and reaching out to them, you're now showing that you care. You're showing that you're concerned about them. You're bringing up some behavioral changes that maybe they weren't aware of. And then they know that ultimately, then they know that you care about them. And so many times when we talk to kids, we know that in the time of a suicide attempt or suicide ideation, most of the time that student has shared with somebody that they were having these thoughts, but they follow it up with, but don't tell anyone. So we have to teach these kids, and everybody really, that these are the kinds of secrets that you tell somebody. These are the kinds of things, even if you feel like they're going to be mad at you, if you're concerned about somebody, you're going to feel horrible if something happens and you never share that information. So these are those kinds of situations where we reiterate to them, all secrets can be told, even secrets where you think that, they might hurt themselves or they're going to be mad at you. Those are the kinds of things that are the good secrets that you need to share in order to make sure that your friend is safe.
I think that's a really important point on secrets, because we know secrets can make us sick. And when we're little, we're scared. Like, we don't want to lose a friend, or we don't want to upset someone. We don't want someone to be mad at us. What other kinds of secrets? Because I know you deal with sexual abuse as well when it comes to secret keeping, because this is a really big topic in terms of suicide and they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So what other secrets are really important that somebody share with somebody?
Yeah. So we teach our kids in kindergarten through 12th grade that all secrets can be told. And so that is anything from somebody sending you inappropriate pictures. In this day of technology, we know that sextortion is a huge thing right now. And so if you're not familiar with what sextortion is, it's really exploiting a child in a sexual way. But then kids are taking their life because of this, because they have shared a picture and somebody says that they're going to hurt them or they need to pay them thousands of dollars in order to get it back. Kids are taking their life because of this. And so any kind of this sexual exploitation, any kind of somebody that is looking at, touching, taking pictures of your private parts or asking you to take pictures, touch their private parts, those are the kinds of secrets that get people in trouble. And so we tell our kids that if that's happening to you, it is never your fault. It never can make you any less special. It can't take away your dignity, but those are the kinds of secrets that you need to tell someone so that you can be safe. So if a friend is telling you that they have been abused or they have had somebody taking pictures of them, that if a friend tells you that, that's the other kind of thing that you need to go tell somebody else. We teach our kids about their trusted adults. We encourage them to have trusted adults at school, outside of school, whether it's in their church or if it's a coach, if it's their mom or their dad or their grandma or their grandpa. But we encourage them to have lots of trusted adults, because sometimes it's that trusted adult that's violating the child. And so if that's happening, then they need to have other adults that they can talk to and that they feel they can trust to get them the safety and the help they need.
What are the statistics on the abuse that happens with somebody you know versus a stranger?
So 90% of the abuse of child sexual abuse happens with somebody that they know. And it may not be somebody, and we know that these perpetrators often groom the whole family. So it's somebody that the whole family is usually connected to that is violating a child. And so that's as a mom, I have 2 kids. I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. And, you know, I some may say I'm a little protective, but I ask the questions. And I think it's important to know if your child's going to an overnight, who else is going to be in the house? Do they have brothers or sisters that are going to have friends over? Where do you keep your firearm? Do you have a firearm in your house? I mean, I probably come across a little bit like a crazy parent, and that's okay. Because if I'm being a crazy parent to protect my kids, I'm fine with being the crazy person.
Yes. And I think these are conversations that we don't like. The more we can talk about this and the more we just openly have this dialogue in our home and outside of our home and at school, this becomes a normalized conversation, and it takes that discomfort and that fear down.
I use this example that my son last year came home from school and he was in 5th grade, and somebody that sat next to him said that he didn't want to be here anymore. And my son came to me and he was like, I know what that means. Like, what do I do with this information? But because we've had this conversation, we've had open, honest, raw conversations with our kids, they know what to do with that information. So he reported it to the school counselor. The school counselor met with the child. It was kind of a misunderstanding, but if you wouldn't have done something, then that child could have been really thinking about taking their life. And if we don't have these conversations, we see kids younger and younger that are feeling these suicide ideations, that feel like they don't want to be around anymore. And it's happening so much younger than I think we realized, even as adults, that these kids are struggling in such a way.
Maggie, can I chime in and ask a question?
Yeah.
Can we back up to this is such a it's a heavy conversation, but it's a absolutely needed one, and my kids have young kids as well, and but I wanted to reach back on the suicide conversation, and how to just ask that question of a kid or a child, and if they're having those thoughts. So if I'm sitting here watching today and I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, Maggie, that I'm just gonna, I'm sure that you want me to just go ask, like, do you feel like you might commit suicide? In a perfect world, yes. If I'm not comfortable doing that, though, and I'm like, okay, well, what's the next best thing that I could do if it wasn't that? Can we maybe drill in a little bit on maybe some other techniques as an adult, even that might not feel comfortable? How would you go about, or, I thought we might expand on that for a minute.
For sure. So we say, like, it doesn't matter how you ask the question necessarily, but it's the important that you do ask some questions. I mean, if you overthink the words that you're going to say, then you're going to end up sounding blubbering, and it's not going to come across in a clear fashion. And if you truly do not think that you can have those conversations, whether it's, you just are so worried about saying the wrong thing or doing it wrong, find somebody to ask those questions. So reach out to a teacher, reach out to the school counselor, and express, if you have concerns about somebody, the best thing you can do is make somebody aware that you're concerned. Ideally, it's going to be having that conversation directly with the individual. But if you truly don't think that you can, find somebody that can. My family were big journalers. And so I can maybe, even if I was concerned about Wyatt, my 11-year-old, maybe I write in a journal and we journal back and forth. I mean, I think that's a good philosophy for parents to do, because sometimes your kid may not want to talk to you, but they may be a lot more comfortable putting it in writing. So if you are concerned, put it in writing, write it down in a note. That way you can pre-think what you're going to say, you can formulate your thoughts, and you can put it in writing and then give that to them in that capacity. That's another option. Kristen, do you have any good points there?
I think how are you feeling is a great one to start. Some people go, I don't know, or terrible, or just tell me more about that. Those kinds of connective conversations get it started, because having a prompt like, how are you feeling? I'm fine. Feelings inside not expressed. We've talked about that many times. We can say, well, tell me more, because I can sense something in my gut says something's going on. And you could be out, and I say, I could be out to lunch. I like to say this, like, I could be out to lunch and you can tell me that I'm out to lunch, and something in my gut just says there's something going on. I can see it in your eyes. And people feel afraid to be seen. I think it's important to make that note, because we think we all want to be seen. We all want to be, we all do. We want to be understood. But then when we really are seen, that's really vulnerable and scary for a lot of people. We're used to kind of masking it maybe, or we're just kind of like, don't look at me, don't see me. I want to hide because I'm in shame. So being seen is very vulnerable, especially when someone is asking you, when maybe nobody has really cared. You felt like nobody's really cared about you, and all of a sudden somebody's asking. What do you think, Maggie, about that?
I agree. I think, well, wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that the tell me more is such an important phrase that we can use in lots of different ways, right? Like we can have it about our feelings. We can have it about, what else is going on. Asking those open-ended questions are the way that we're going to get people to talk more. So the tell me more. I also think that putting your own judgment aside when you're having these kind of conversations. I mean, that's one thing we teach the adults, not to say like, you're not going to do something stupid, like kill yourself, right? Like putting your own judgment away, because you don't want to put your feelings on them. They're already overwhelmed with their own emotions and feelings, that taking away any form of judgment about how they're feeling or what their plan might be, just coming to it on a neutral territory. I mean, you may have your own opinions on suicide and death, but you shouldn't put that on somebody that is experiencing crisis mode. I mean, they are in full body crisis mode at that moment. And so take the deep breath before you have the conversation, approach it in a calm manner, and just be open. And you yourself are being vulnerable if you're having that conversation, that it's okay. It's okay to feel vulnerable. It's okay to be nervous about having that conversation. It's okay to do that and feel that way.
I thought, Maggie, that was a great point about kind of how not to approach the conversation. I thought maybe could we drill down on that a little bit more, Kristen? I bet you have some thoughts too on how not to approach maybe some of these, because sometimes that's even more helpful than the other way. And I, we talk about this across every spectrum of mental health, Kristen, especially you and I talk about when it comes to parenting. I am just as guilty of telling my kid that he's fine, buck up, stop crying, all that stuff, all the wrong things. We do that. And there's certainly wrong things about this. These wrong things could have bigger consequences though, and ramifications. So could we dive in on a little of that, what not to do?
Yeah. And Kristen, you can interrupt and chime in whenever you want. But I think that really there are obviously in our training, we use one of the examples is you look pretty miserable. Well, that might make somebody feel pretty bad, right? And that may shut them down. So try and eliminate anything that may be a roadblock. So saying you're not going to do something dumb, suicide is dumb, any of those kinds of things, putting any negative connotation into the way that you're having the conversation are obviously things to avoid. To be able to just ask, how are you feeling? What's going on with you? Again, having open-ended conversations, because you don't want to ask yes or no, because then that shuts the conversation down. It shuts that door of communication. So open-ended is the best way to do things with the tell me more. Explain to me how you're feeling today. Explain to me what's going on in your life. Help me understand what's happening in your world. We haven't connected in a while. Tell me some things that are happening with you. Just open-ended, giving them the floor to be able to share what's happening and what's going on.
And I think you're making some great points. The other thing is if we come at it shaming them, so we kind of mentioned that, like, what's wrong with you? What you're so angry. Like my facial expression, I am not showing compassion. I'm not offering kindness. I'm not softening myself. My fear underneath that is probably a lot of fear. that something bad's going to happen, or I'm scared something bad's going to happen, or maybe it's bringing up something from me from my past that's activating from me because I'm scared of losing somebody. Maybe there's some unprocessed grief there. And I think really checking how you're delivering, like what's your tone? What are your facial expressions? Are you regulated? Because if you're really dysregulated, the person's going to be protective of themselves. They're not going to feel safe. So in order to have this conversation, the key is you can't make someone feel safe, but if you are offering compassion, kindness, and you're regulated and you're calm, that's going to transcend to the person on the other end that you care about them, that you truly care about them. Mm-hmm. There's not another motive there. And if I have to manage my own fear around the conversation, it doesn't mean I'm not going to have fear. I certainly will, because this is a big conversation. One of our therapists, this really stuck with me. We were having a team meeting and we were talking about this subject, and it kind of took me back. And one of her trainings, she was told that if someone says, yes, I kind of am contemplating it, to ask a more concrete question, because the brain doesn't fully develop until 25. And this was the question: do you want to be dead, buried in the ground? And it's a big statement, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw your facial expression, Mayor Jensen. It took me by surprise too, but the question is more tangible. Like, this is really the reality of it. Do you want to be dead, buried in the ground? And if someone says yes, and they have a plan and they have means and they have a timeline, you need immediate help. So let's talk about that. If someone is suicidal, what's the next steps?
Well, you mentioned earlier about 988, and I think that's great. But what some people don't realize is that you can call 988 or contact the crisis text line because you're concerned about somebody. You don't have to be the person in crisis to make those connections. If you're worried about somebody, you can contact 988, or the crisis text line is 741-741, and you can get connected that way. I just think that the biggest thing is being aware of the resources. I mean, being aware of what's out there to help, having contacts of knowing I can call 988 at any time if I'm concerned about anybody, and somebody there can walk me through what I need to do and how to handle that situation.
And that is, I spoke at your conference, and after the conference, someone came up to me and she's like, I have a friend that I'm concerned about, and I don't think I can have the conversation. And what I recommended is she call. At the time it was 1-800-273-TALK. Now it's 988. I said, call 988, get them on the phone, have your friend there, and they will walk you through the whole process. And you can just say, I'm concerned about my friend. I don't know what to do or say. She's having suicidal thoughts. Can you help me? Yep. And you can have it on speakerphone, and you have support right then and there.
Absolutely.
Because if you're afraid, I don't know what to say, they can help you, walk you through that. You don't have to do it alone.
Mm-hmm. And that one phone call right there is just a huge gift to you, to them, and let them take it from there. I think that's what people don't realize. It's like, just, there are people out there chomping at the bit to walk you through this.
Right. And I think so many people think that only if I'm feeling suicidal, I can call that number. It's there. It is a gift. It is a resource for everybody at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you have concerns and you need help having a conversation, or if you want to express it, these are the things that you have noticed about a friend or a loved one. Should I be concerned? You can call and ask those questions, and somebody who is skilled in this topic can help you. They can give you the resources. They can direct you to a next step. They can encourage you that, yes, you have every reason to be concerned, and talk to your friend or your loved one. I mean, I think that it's such an incredible resource that is available at our fingertips every day.
It's awesome.
I'm so grateful it is. The other thing is, if you're with somebody and you don't want to say anything, you can text them while you're with the person, and they can text you back prompts, questions to ask, resources, how to plug them in. So that's what I love about it. You can text or call.
Well, and we're all on our phone being very rude at dinner all the time anyways. So it wouldn't even be that, you wouldn't even know. But to your point, it can be discreetly done.
But on that same note, I think it's important when you are engaged in this conversation and you are asking somebody about if they have suicide intent, that your phone is put away. Because if you are coming across as being distracted by something, and that you're putting that barrier up, I tell parents and teachers all the time, like, put the phone down when you're having this conversation. Yes, you might need to have some prompts or something like that. But as much as you can, remove any distraction that is around. And when you're having this conversation, I tell the teachers, this isn't a passing period conversation. This isn't I have 5 minutes between classes to ask these kids. You have to have intentional time, and you need to have an opportunity to sit down and hear, because they may not come out right away and say, these are my intents, but they may tell you everything that has led up to why they are feeling the way that they are. And so that may be a very long, open conversation before you get to what's really going on. And so prepare to have to spend time with that person, prepare to truly invest and engage with that individual, and not have it be a surface level conversation.
That's awesome. Well, I told you, Maggie, this would go by really fast, and it's already been 30 minutes. So thank you so much, Maggie Owens, for helping us address this very, very heavy conversation. Several actually issues that we dealt with here between youth suicide and also, sexual abuse as well. Both are incredibly serious issues, and I think you helped shine some light on it. Kristen Boyce, you're always amazing. I think the takeaway here today is 988 is there for you. Call it, text it, be ready to have those honest conversations. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Kristen, thank you. Maggie, thank you. We will be back in 2 weeks with another topic, but in the meantime, stay safe. Reach out if you need help, and know that you are not alone. So thanks again. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.